That report from Democracy Now!'s Amy Littlefield here in Warsaw, Poland. To talk more about the climate crisis in Africa, we're joined by two guests. Tosi Panupano is the former chair of the Africa Group here at the UN climate change negotiations. He's from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Also with us is Mithika Mwenda, Secretary General of the Pan-Africa Climate Justice Alliance, part of the walkout Thursday, but has come back inside the summit just to talk with us today. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Tosi Panupano, you're inside. What's being accomplished here? What do you think needs to happen, particularly for the continent of Africa?
Well, I believe that we should start to see some momentum, because this COP cannot be seen in isolation. This COP is certainly linked to a COP next year in Lima and to the one in Paris in 2015, where we're supposed to agree on this new climate regime. And if some developing countries are to take more action, this action will be commensurate with the means put at the disposal. So we need to see a good signal when it comes to finance. And unfortunately, we are not seeing so.
What do you mean by finance?
Finance has to take place in, I believe, three places. First of all, long-term finance. It is important that we see how we'll get to the $100 billion by 2020. We actually need some mid-term goal, because we have no clarity in this post-fast start era where we are. Are we going to see a plateau from last year? Are we falling off the cliff, or is there going to be some increase? First, we need to see some direction. Second, we need to see a capitalization of green climate funds. Right now, it is a nice vault. Unfortunately, it's an empty vault. So we need to see some political signals as regards the mobilization of resources to be put in the fund.
What are the major obstacles that you see here? And if you see them as countries, name the countries.
Well, I'm not going to do any naming and shaming, but
I know you're a very good diplomat, so maybe I'm going to have to ask our other guests.
Yes, no. What I like to say is that we know that people have committed according to the convention, which we have. We call it the rule of law. We know that you have three groups of countries. Annex 1 is supposed to show leadership when it comes to mitigation. Annex 2 countries.
What do you mean by mitigation, for people who aren't familiar with the lingo?
Mitigation is to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases, which constitutes this problem of climate. This Annex 2 countries are countries which are developed and which are supposed to provide means, which are financials, technology transfer, and capacity building. And then you have non-Annex 1 countries, which are developing countries. They have to undertake action also, but that action will be commensurate with whatever support they get. So unfortunately, we're not seeing any signal as regards to finance. We do see a positive signal is the adaptation fund, which was running out of resources given the very low prices of carbon, has been, it seems, replenished. It's going to be replenished because countries have made pledges which are close to $100 million. So as far as Africa is concerned, we are quite happy, because the overriding priority of the African group is adaptation. We see a right signal, but not to go beyond the only adaptation action, to have African countries to undertake more actions as regards mitigations, as regards REDD+, which is the reduction of emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, and to undertake NAMAs to strengthen the capacity. We need to see scaled-up financing.
Mithika Mwenda, you represent the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. Which nations are these, and what do you think needs to be accomplished here? You have very much an outside perspective.
I'm not a diplomat like my friend Tosi. What I can say is that we are really agitated, and countries is actually good to mention them. We have Japan, we have United States, we have Canada, we have Australia, Russia, countries which have the biggest obligation to make in terms of emission reductions and transition to the low carbon development pathways. But what we have seen here is that they are backtracking on their earlier commitments, and we don't see a reason why we should continue with these negotiations when they are not honoring what they were first to do in the first place.
Talk about the issue of equity. Who is most impacted by climate change?
We in Africa are greatly impacted by climate change. You have shown a video by Patrick Bond. The science is very clear about climate change. We have seen the most recent IPCC report, and to us,
the IPCC, of course, is a scientific panel of 1,000
Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
That won the Nobel Peace Prize.
What we have seen actually to us is confirmation of what we are seeing. It is predicting that by this and 2030, 2050, but we are seeing that it is coming earlier than what's predicted. And this is really scary, whereas the industrialized countries are not taking cue on this. We have seen rivers drying up, persistent droughts. We have seen floods, erratic rainfall, snows which appeared in our mountains during my lifetime. I've seen them disappearing. So these are things which are saying there. So the issue of climate change is actually not to be told by somebody. We are experiencing that, and that's why we have come here even to offer testimony to the industrialized countries and the global community that it is indeed not a fiction. It is something which is happening.
How did you come to Warsaw, and who were the people that you came with?
We came here first and foremost as Africans to join the rest of the global community in solidarity, to join the movement, to tell the global community that the inaction which we have been seeing here is really unacceptable. And we have to work together. Of course, we believe that it is that global collaboration which is going to defeat the impacts of climate change. We in the South, we in poor countries in Africa are doing a lot. Small women groups in Africa are doing a lot in small low-carbon development efforts like agriculture, organic agriculture, cook stoves, and so forth and so forth. But where we are supposed to see action in industrialized countries, in United States, in Australia, and those others, we are not seeing that action.
Tosi Panupanu, people in the United States who are listening or watching right now might say, we'd like to be able to give charity to other countries, but we're dealing with our own crises. Can you talk about that issue of those who see this as charity?
It's certainly not charity. I think it's rather something along the lines of compensation, because runaway climate change is putting 1 billion Africans in harm's way. Today, those Africans have to go through adverse effect of a global phenomenon that they didn't create. It's actually creating not only drought, floods, it's creating conflict, because people have to go further and further to get some water, and other people are not just welcoming them. So Mr. Jones can drive 2 SUVs in the US while a poor African is fighting to get some water. So it's about doing what's right, and it has to be done in 2 ways: to reduce the lifestyles, the consumption of carbon in the north, and to provide some resources so that we can deal with a climate change phenomenon which was imposed on us.
How does climate change affect the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo?
Many ways, many ways. I mean, land that was very fertile is no longer fertile. In certain plateau where you didn't have malaria now is there. We do have also problems as regards the irregularity of rainfalls. So it's create a diminution in crop yields. So it does have a bearing on the very livelihoods of 70 million people in the DRC. And once again, they didn't contribute to create this climate change phenomenon.
Final words as this conference is wrapped up. Can Africa wait until 2015 or 2020 for the world to reach a climate deal?
No, Africa, every year which is passing, Africa is being pushed closer